Relax, Nina. It's just money. You'll make more. Daniel said that, grinning, while he sat there in my aunt's kitchen wearing sunglasses he'd just bought with my money pushed up on his head like a damn rock star. 5 years of my life, every double shift, every skipped birthday party because I was working the register alone, every ramen dinner so I could stack cash for my second store, wiped out overnight while I slept down the hall, and this clown was cracking jokes about it over pancakes. You'll make more, like it was nothing, like I hadn't bled for every single dollar. I looked around that kitchen, my Aunt Annika refilling his coffee like he was a guest of honor, my Uncle Oscar chuckling at something he said, my own sister Macy staring at her plate, not saying a word, and something in me just snapped quiet. Not loud snapped, cold snapped. Because I realized nobody in that room was going to say what needed saying, so I was going to have to be the one. My name's Nina Irwin, 31. I run a furniture shop in Nashville, the kind of place where folks bring me their grandma's busted-up dresser and I make it look brand new. Built that business from nothing after my parents died, with money I earned the hard way, dollar by dollar. I never thought I'd end up in a kitchen in the Smoky Mountains watching my brother-in-law wear my life savings on his sunglasses. 3 days before that morning, I'd driven 8 hours from Nashville to a rental cabin my uncle picked out, his family reset, he called it. My cousin Ariana texted me the whole way up. Can't wait, it's gonna be good this time. Should have caught that. This time. Like the other times weren't. My sister Macy married Daniel 2 years back. Loud, slick, the kind of guy who fills up a room with his voice before you even see his face. She used to text me dumb memes at 2 in the morning. Now she barely texts at all. And when she does, it reads like she typed it, deleted it, and typed it again with somebody looking over her shoulder. I told myself, not my business. Grown woman, her choices. Wrong call. I know that now. First night at the cabin, everybody was laughing around the fire pit, and for a few hours, I actually let myself breathe. Then I went up for my laptop, and something felt off, angled different. Charging cord in a port I never use. Small stuff. I almost let it go. Browser history wiped. Not a little activity, but scrubbed clean, like somebody didn't want me seeing what they'd been doing on my machine. Next morning, 7:50 a.m., my shop manager calls, voice tight. Nina, the vendor payment bounced, accounts showing insufficient funds. I laughed at first. Had to be a glitch. I had over 200 grand sitting in there. I opened the app right there in my pajamas. $0. Transferred out overnight, every cent. Gone before I even had my coffee. And when I walked downstairs, phone shaking in my hand, ready to tell my family my life savings had vanished, Daniel didn't even flinch, just leaned back in his chair, tapped his new sunglasses, and said the words that lit something in me I didn't know I still had. Relax, Nina. It's just money. You'll make more. He had no idea what was coming for him. I stared at those sunglasses pushed up on his head. The ones he definitely didn't own 3 days ago, and something in me went ice cold. Take those off, I said. Daniel blinked. What? The sunglasses. Take them off, right now. He laughed, glanced around the table like he wanted witnesses to how crazy I sounded. They're just sunglasses, Nina. $340. That's what a pair like that runs. I know because I almost bought the same ones last month and talked myself out of it. So either you had that kind of cash lying around this week, or you didn't. The table went quiet. Annika's coffee pot stopped mid-pour. Oscar's fork froze halfway to his mouth. Daniel's grin cracked, just slightly. You're reaching. Am I? I grabbed my laptop off the counter and set it down hard enough to rattle the plates. Let's find out. 6 months ago, somebody tried to hack my shop's network, so I put tracking software on this exact laptop. every login, every keystroke, snaps a photo every time somebody who isn't me touches it. That's an invasion of privacy, he said, voice climbing an octave. No, I said, stealing 200 grand from your wife's sister is a felony. Tracking software on my own machine is called being smart. Nina, don't, Macy whispered. First words she'd said all morning. I looked at her, really looked at her. She wasn't scared for herself. She was scared for him. 2 years of marriage, and she was still covering for the man who'd probably had her sign off on things she never fully understood. I love you, Macy, but I'm not putting this away. Daniel lunged for the laptop, chair scraping the floor. Oscar was faster, stepping right into his path, arm out like a crossing guard. Sit down, Oscar said. Quiet, final. Daniel sat. His eyes never left the screen. I opened the folder. Time-stamped photos, one after another. Daniel hunched over my laptop at 3:12 a.m., the blue glow lighting up his face, fingers moving fast across the keys like he'd done this before. I turned the screen toward the table. Nobody spoke. Annika made a sound like she'd been punched. That could be anyone, Daniel started. It's got a timestamp, it's got your face, it's got you sitting in that exact chair right now. I closed the laptop. So here's what happens next. You tell me where my money is, or I call the police and let them ask. He stood up so fast his chair hit the floor. You think a blurry photo scares me? I think, I said, stepping closer instead of backing away, you picked the wrong sister-in-law to steal from and the wrong pair of sunglasses to wear in front of her the next morning. That's when Macy finally spoke, voice cracking, but loud enough that even Daniel turned. Tell her, Daniel. Tell her or I will. His face went white, and that's when I knew she'd known all along. Tell her, Daniel. Tell her or I will. Those words hung in that kitchen like smoke after a gunshot. Daniel spun toward my sister so fast his chair nearly went over a second time. Macy. Just her name. Low. Flat. A warning wrapped up in 2 syllables. I'd heard that tone before, not from him, but from guys who used to corner girls at parties back in high school, the tone that means, don't you dare say another word. She didn't back down. First time I'd seen her from her in 2 years. You told me it was for us, she said, voice shaking but climbing louder with every word. You said Nina had plenty. You said she wouldn't even notice at first and we'd pay it back before she checked her balance again. The room exploded. My Aunt Annika gasped like the air got knocked out of her. My Uncle Oscar swore under his breath, something I'd never once heard him say at that table in 31 years. I just stood there, laptop still open on the counter, watching 2 years of lies finally come apart at the seams right in front of me. She's confused, he said, turning toward the rest of the table like he could talk his way past them all at once. She doesn't know what she's saying. She's upset. I know exactly what I'm saying. Macy's voice cracked, but didn't stop. I watched you log into her account on my phone's hotspot so it wouldn't trace back to the cabin's Wi-Fi. I watched you delete the confirmation emails off her inbox before she could see them come through. I sat there and let you do it because I was scared of what happens when I tell you no. My chest went tight. Not for me, for her. For 2 years of distance I'd mistaken for her just growing up and drifting. Macy, I said, quietly, why didn't you call me? Her eyes filled up fast. Because every time I thought about it, he'd remind me whose name is on the lease, whose name is on the car. He made sure there was nothing left that was just mine. She wiped her face hard, angry at her own tears. I'm done being scared of you, Daniel. I'm done. His face twisted, the smug mask I'd been staring at all morning finally cracking into something uglier underneath. You ungrateful? He took a step toward her, hand out. I got between them before I even decided to move. Don't. Get out of my way, Nina. Touch her?
I said, "and I promise the felony theft charge is going to be the smallest problem you have today." For a second, nobody moved. Then he grabbed her wrist fast, practiced, the kind of grab that's done it before, behind closed doors, where nobody's around to see. Macy cried out, more from shock than from pain, and something in me went off like a switch flipping. My hand was already dialing before my brain caught up with it. 911, what's your emergency? I need police at... I gave the cabin's address, voice steadier than I felt. Ongoing financial fraud, and right now a man is restraining a woman against her will. Daniel's grip loosened like he'd touched a live wire. You're not... Put that down. Too late, I said, phone still pressed to my ear, the dispatcher asking follow-up questions I answered one at a time without breaking eye contact with him. Oscar moved in fast, wedging his whole body between Daniel and both of us, arms out like he was breaking up a bar fight before it started. You lay one more hand on them, he said, voice shaking with a kind of anger I'd never heard from him in any family dinner in my whole life. And I will handle you myself, right here. Daniel backed up a step, breathing hard, eyes darted toward the front door like he was actually weighing it. Running out here, in the mountains, no car keys, no phone signal past the tree line, 3 witnesses standing in that kitchen and a laptop full of time-stamped proof right behind me? This isn't over, he said, jabbing a finger in my direction like it still meant something. It's not, I said. It's just getting started. Annika had her arms wrapped around Macy now, both of them crying. Macy's whole body shaking like something had finally cracked loose after 2 years of holding it together. Ariana stood frozen in the doorway, hand over her mouth, having walked in on the tail end of it all. Even Oscar, a man I'd never once seen rattled at any family dinner in my whole life, had his jaw locked tight, fists still clenched at his sides like he wasn't sure the fight was actually over. Daniel just stood there in the middle of the kitchen, sunglasses still pushed up on his head, looking smaller by the second, like all that swagger from 20 minutes ago had drained right out of him the moment Macy opened her mouth. Outside, faint but growing louder, I heard it, the sound that told me help was actually on its way this time. Not a threat, not a bluff, but real. Sirens cutting through the quiet of the mountains, getting closer with every second. Daniel heard it too. And for the first time since I'd walked into that kitchen, I watched real fear cross his face.
The sirens got louder, then stopped right outside the cabin. Car doors, gravel crunching under boots. 2 seconds later, the front door swung open and cold mountain air came pouring down the hallway. Sheriff's Department, everybody stay where you are. 2 deputies came through first, hands resting near their belts, eyes scanning the room fast. Behind them walked a woman in plain clothes, a badge clipped to her jacket, a folder tucked under one arm like she already knew this was going to take paperwork. "Who called this in?" she asked. "I did." I stepped forward, phone still warm in my hand. "Nina Irwin, that's me." She nodded once, sharp, all business. "Detective James, dispatch said financial fraud and a possible restraint situation." "Both," I said. "Him." I didn't even have to point. Daniel was standing dead center in that kitchen with his stolen sunglasses still on his head, looking like a man who'd just realized the exits were all blocked. "This is insane," Daniel said, laughing, but it came out thin and cracked at the edges. "She's making this up, some family drama, and now she's got the actual police involved. Sir, I need you to step back and stay quiet unless I ask you something directly," Detective James said, not even looking at him. Her eyes were on me. "Walk me through it." So I did. Fast, clear, no shaking in my voice anymore. Funny how it steadies once help actually shows up. I told her about the 200 grand gone overnight, the wiped browser history, the sunglasses he was still wearing right that second, paid for with money that wasn't his. "And I've got proof," I said,
grabbing my laptop off the counter, security software, installed it myself after a hacking attempt on my shop's network 6 months back, logs every login, every keystroke, takes a photo every time somebody who isn't me touches this machine. Detective James held out a hand. May I? I turned the screen toward her and pulled up the folder. Photo after photo loaded. Daniel hunched over my laptop at 3:12 a.m., blue light washing over his face, fingers moving fast like a man who'd done this kind of thing more than once in his life. That's not proof of anything, Daniel said, voice climbing. Anybody could have. That's not even clear. That's just some blurry... Sir, Detective James didn't even raise her voice, just looked at him, and something about her tone made him shut his mouth. Timestamp says 3:12 a.m., photos clear as day. That's your face. She scrolled further. More photos, login attempts, a screen capture of a wire transfer confirmation, account numbers blacked out on my end, but the amount sitting right there in plain digits, every last cent of my 200 grand. Macy stood off to the side, Annika's arm still wrapped around her shoulders, tears streaked down her face but her chin up now, steady in a way I hadn't seen from her in 2 years. He made me use my hotspot, Macy said, voice shaking but clear, so it wouldn't trace back to the cabin's Wi-Fi. I can show you the messages. I saved them. I saved all of them, just in case. She pulled out her phone, hands trembling, and held it out to the detective. I felt something crack open in my chest watching her do that. My little sister, who 2 years ago couldn't even pick a restaurant without checking with him first, standing there, handing over the evidence that was going to put him away. Detective James took the phone, scrolled, and her jaw tightened. This is enough for us to move forward. You've got to be kidding me, Daniel said, backing up a step, eyes darting toward the front door like he was actually doing the math on running. Middle of the mountains, no car keys, no cell signal past the tree line, 2 deputies standing 4 feet away. Mr. Reyes, turn around and put your hands behind your back. This is a mistake, Daniel said, voice cracking for real now, all that swagger from breakfast completely gone. Macy, tell them this is crazy, tell them... Macy didn't move toward him. She stood exactly where she was, next to me, next to our aunt, and said the only thing she needed to say. You did this, not me, you. One of the deputies stepped in and cuffed him. The metal clicked shut, and Daniel flinched like it actually hurt, like some part of him still couldn't believe this was real. You think you're something without me? He spat at her as they turned him toward the door. You're going to regret this, Macy. You hear me? You're going to regret this. Macy took 1 step closer to him, not to comfort him, to finish him. I regretted every single day I stayed. This isn't one of them. His face went through about 4 different expressions in 2 seconds. Rage, disbelief, something close to panic, before the deputies walked him straight out the front door. His sunglasses fell off somewhere between the kitchen and the porch. Nobody bothered picking them up. The cabin went quiet, really quiet, the kind of quiet that only comes after something huge finally breaks loose. Detective James closed her folder and turned to me. With evidence like this, the logs, the timestamps, the messages your sister saved, you've got a strong case. Given the amount, we're looking at felony theft plus fraud charges. You'll likely recover most, if not all, of what he took. I nodded, throat too tight to say much of anything back. One more thing, she added, glancing toward Macy. Ma'am, if there's more going on here than the money, if there's anything else you need to talk to somebody about, we can get you connected with the right people. No pressure, just so you know it's there. Macy didn't answer right away, just looked down at her own wrist, at the faint red mark already starting to bruise where he'd grabbed her 20 minutes ago. Then she looked back up, and for the first time all week, there was something in her eyes that looked almost like relief. Yeah, I think I might need that. Outside, through the kitchen window, I watched the cruiser doors slam shut, watched it pull down the long gravel driveway and disappear around the bend, taking Daniel with it. I thought that was the end of it. I had no idea what was waiting for us back in Nashville. The drive back to Nashville was quiet. 8 hours, mostly silence. Macy in the passenger seat with her knees pulled up to her chest like she used to sit when we were kids on long car rides with Dad. I didn't push her to talk. Some things need road time before they turn into words. "I have no idea what I have left," she said finally, somewhere past the Tennessee state line. "House is in his name, car's in his name. I don't even know what's in my own bank account anymore." "You've got me," I said. "That's not nothing." She didn't answer, but she reached over and squeezed my hand on the console, and that was enough for both of us right then. The first week back was a blur of phone calls. Detective James kept me updated as the bank traced every transfer, every login, every digital fingerprint Daniel had left behind, thinking nobody would ever check. Turned out he'd done something like this before, a smaller version, years back with an ex-girlfriend who never pressed charges. That detail didn't surprise me. Guys like him don't just start, they practice. 2 weeks in, I got the call I'd been waiting for. "Miss Irwin, the funds have been recovered, all of it, plus what your fraud protection covers on top." Detective James's voice on the other end, steady as always. "You should see it reflected in your account within 48 hours. I sat down right there on my shop floor, surrounded by half-restored dressers and chairs waiting on new legs, and let myself breathe for what felt like the first time in a month. 5 years of my life, back where it belonged. Macy filed for divorce that same week, didn't hesitate once she had the paperwork in front of her, like she'd been carrying the decision around for a year already and just needed somebody to hand her the pen. She moved into my spare room, temporarily, which somehow turned into 3 months, my apartment slowly filling up with her stuff and the smell of the banana bread she baked at 11 at night when she couldn't sleep. Some nights were rough. I'd hear her up, pacing, and I'd go sit with her without saying much of anything, because there wasn't much to say that would actually help. Other nights, she'd talk for hours. About the small stuff first, how he used to comment on what she ate, then working up to the bigger stuff, the stuff that made my hands curl into fists under the kitchen table.
"You don't have to explain it to me," I told her one of those nights. "You don't owe me a timeline for figuring it out." "I keep waiting to feel stupid," she said, "for staying, for not seeing it sooner." "You're not stupid," I said. "You survived. That's a different thing than stupid." She started therapy that month, slow going, but going. I watched my sister piece herself back together 1 week at a time, and it was somehow harder to watch than the day everything blew up in that kitchen. Explosions are loud and fast. Rebuilding is quiet, and it takes forever. And some days, it doesn't look like progress is happening at all until you look back a month later and realize it was. Daniel's case moved through the system slow, the way these things do. Felony theft, fraud, a separate charge for the wrist grab once Macy decided, on her own, nobody pushed her, that she wanted that on the record too. Last I heard from Detective James, he was looking at real time, not just probation and a slap on the wrist like guys like him usually count on. 6 weeks after the cabin, I opened my second shop. Same block I'd been eyeing for 2 years, same dream I'd almost lost overnight to a man who thought I'd just roll over and make more money to replace what he took. Sunlight came through the front windows that first morning and hit the displays just right, and I stood there for a second, just looking at it, feeling something settle in my chest that had been unsettled since that morning at the cabin. Macy showed up that afternoon with a box of pastries and a smile that looked more like her old one than it had in 2 years. Not fully healed, not there yet, but moving towards something real, something that was actually hers this time, not borrowed, not permitted, not checked in on first. "You did this," she said, looking around the shop.
We did this, I said, and meant it, because if she hadn't found the courage to say, "Tell her or I will," in that kitchen, I don't know how long it would have taken to get him. Maybe never. That evening, closing up the shop, I got a text from an unknown number, no name attached. "You think this is over?" I stared at it for a long minute, didn't recognize the number, didn't need to guess who it might be. I didn't answer it, just forwarded the screenshot straight to Detective James, locked up my shop, and walked out into the evening with my sister beside me, both of us a little more scarred, a little more careful, but standing on our own 2 feet for the first time in years. Whatever came next, we weren't walking into it blind. Not anymore.